Hello, listeners and viewers today. My guest today is Steve Ritalik. Steve is from a medical supply and equipment company called On the Mend here in Huntington Beach. And as always, we're trying to keep our content relevant and local. I've known Steve for a number of months now through Laurie's business, which is called Bright Star Care of Huntington Beach. They also operate in Costa Mesa and Long Beach. And listeners to this podcast know that I'm using this opportunity to learn a lot about the home care business. So through Laurie's business, I met Steve. Steve is often in the same homes that Laurie's home care business is in. And as a result, he's providing equipment. And I thought today it'd make a great opportunity for us to talk about how his provision of services and how his equipment that he provides in the home works to keep people home longer. Okay. Hey, Steve.
How's it going?
Good to have you here.
Thank you for having me. This is awesome.
Steve, how about if we start with an intro to your organization, On the Mend?
Sure. Would love to. So we are On the Mend Medical Supplies and Equipment. We have a couple locations. The company started by owner-founder Liam O'Keefe back in Connecticut, where we are all from. He has since opened a store in New York. And a couple of years ago, my brother was working with Liam since the start, and we decided to move out to California to open our own here in Huntington Beach, where we met Laurie and a bunch of other home care providers and great folks in the home care industry. So we specialize in all sorts of medical equipment, usually for the home. So everything from hospital beds, lift chairs, everything on the equipment side, but we also do the home safety as well. So things like stair lifts, wheelchair ramps, grab bars, to make the home accessible, safe, and, steer people towards independence as well.
Thank you, Steve. So as you know, my wife employs me. So it's like a family business, but, it's in the office, she's telling me what to do with the business as I learn it, right? You said that you work with your brother.
Yes.
What's that like working in a family environment in the store?
We spoke about it a lot before we did the business, and I love it. My brother and I, if you know us, we really balance each other out. So I would say I come from a different background of media and entertainment. So what I brought to the table was management and more of a business side of, operations. Whereas my brother is hands down the most technical, savvy, hands-on sort of guy that I know. So between the two of us, he has a real passion for building, creating, customizing things to, people's different needs. And I have the, other side where I'm able to answer the phone, try to learn more about what the client's needs are and more of an in-store, communication presence. So the two of us really balance each other out, and we found a nice, happy medium of playing to our strengths, and it's been working pretty well so far.
Thank you. From what I hear, you have had a lot of impact since you opened your store in the homes of people that we're also providing home care services to. I know that because our nurses who work with you tell us that this is a unique opportunity to collaborate and so on. But I wondered if you could give us a little bit of a history or a mission or basically a story of where you've had anything that comes to mind where you feel that you had significant impact. I love for my listeners to hear stories of where things have gone right.
Sure. And, just to touch on the partnership, relationship, and, seeing each other in and out of people's homes, I just have to say Bright Star Care, their caregivers, their staff, everyone's compassionate, so well trained. And it's always a pleasure to work with them because you guys are so knowledgeable about a lot of the stuff that, we provide. And it really is a synergy between us as the equipment, home safety guys, you guys providing the care, and the patients who are in need of certain aspects of things.
I'm going to stop you here because Sure. I want to make sure people understand with a disclaimer, I did not prompt that. That came from the heart, and I want to thank you for saying it.
110%. And listen, we work with a lot of companies, Bright Star Care. they really go above and beyond on the
Thank you.
training. So
Thank you.
I have to give kudos to you guys. And yeah, so back to
So any impact stories that you have for us?
yeah. So one that I always bring up, and it's such a relatively small item, but they go by different names. A security pole, a floor to ceiling pole, standing pole. You know, there's a couple of different names for them, but really quick story. And I kind of take people through this all the time in the store. So everyone is familiar with grab bars. You see them in public bathrooms and that sort of thing all the time. The challenge can be if there isn't a wall to mount those grab bars into, how do you get a solid, secure place to grab a hold of if you struggle to stand on your own, or, you know, you need a little support on balance. So they make floor to ceiling poles. Long story short, we had a customer, bigger guy. He suffered from a stroke over a year ago. By the time we got the call, he had been pretty confined to his bed, requiring a Hoyer lift for all transfers in and out of the bed to a wheelchair. And he was adamant. He's like, I have upper body strength. I need something to grab a hold of. And, you know, we were going over options. He was confined to a Hoyer lift, and we wound up trying one of these floor to ceiling poles. This will stick with me like until I'm gone. But we set this up for this gentleman. He was in a hospital bed, you know, raised the back, grabbed a hold of the pole, and he stood up on his own for the first time in over a year with the assistance of the pole, but without the use of a Hoyer lift. And it was pretty emotional. He started to cry, like it was a big deal. And it was the first time that he stood up on his own in probably a year and a half. So relatively simple piece of equipment that had a huge impact. And, you know, we're lucky to have those sorts of experiences along the way, but that was one that really stuck with me.
I love those kind of stories, because that's what the business is all about, providing care and changing people's lives. The theme of this podcast is keeping people at home longer with an optimism approach to aging. So I couldn't have picked a better story to tell the audience. Thank you for that.
Of course.
Steve, when you go into somebody's home to try and assess it for equipment that can help them stay home longer, perhaps we could just do a bit of a walk through the different parts of the house that you look at. And maybe a good way to construct this is, you know, which are the most common areas where you look at, and what are the things you can do in those areas?
Yeah. So as far as home safety assessments go, we like to take a very conversational approach to those assessments. And, you know, depending on the person and their needs, their conditions, what's going to benefit them the most. So we take into account the patient or the, you know, consumer and their needs, as well as the environment we're in, because every home is going to be different. And, you know, a home built 60 years ago, we might be facing different challenges than a newer home, or, you know, something a little more modern. So some of the most common areas, at which I think a lot of people are aware, the bathroom. So bathroom is, you know, it can be a dangerous spot for someone who has mobility challenges. Oftentimes, tile floor, wet floor, and in a lot of instances, it's a tight, confined space where you don't have the luxury of being able to use that walker, or, you know, sometimes more equipment in there could be a hindrance. So the bathroom is can be a challenge area. There's, you know, ways to approach the bathroom. The floor to ceiling pole we use that quite a bit, and being creative with where we put it. We can often get multiple uses out of those poles, where it's something to help get off the toilet and then also into the shower. So, you know, trying to be mindful of not putting too much in there. Grab bars, I think a lot of people are aware of grab bars, but those are awesome.
A grab bar is something, it's just what it says, right? It's something you grab onto when you're trying to lift yourself up.
Yeah, absolutely. You've seen them in public bathrooms, or, you know, in a gym shower room. Yes, it's a spot to grab a hold of, and especially in the bathroom when you're making that step over a tub or a ledge, grab a hold of that, or wet floor, just a little bit of extra security of a strong, sturdy point to grab onto in the bathroom. So yeah, grab bars. Oftentimes the height of the toilet seat can be problematic for folks who have trouble standing. So, on the easier side, we have elevated toilet seats with handles that you can push up and off of, all the way up to products like the Dignity Lift, which is, a powered lift, goes over the toilet and provides even more, lift assistance. They make those with bidets as well for cleaning and prevention of UTIs. So a lot of stuff for the bathroom, all the way up to, a full-on bathroom remodel where we go in, take out an existing tub and replace it with an ADA roll-in shower that you can utilize, a shower chair on wheels. So it's a bathroom, definitely a point to look at. Another area of concern could be the bedroom. So we try to approach the assessment from the shoes of the consumer, right? So what areas are giving them trouble? Oftentimes we find getting out of a bed could be a challenge. So in the bedroom, a hospital bed, depending on the situation going on there with adjustable height to raise and lower the bed, could be a benefit for someone needing a little extra assistance standing. Those super poles, again, next to a bed. If there's any concerns of rolling out of bed in the middle of the night, there's rails and things of that nature. So bathroom, bedroom, other areas of the house, the stairs, just the nature of stairs can, one, be a challenge for mobility, but also, God forbid, someone does fall down stairs, that can lead to some real damage to, bodily harm there. So stair lifts can be a consideration if, moving up and down the stairs, or in a lot of cases, there's only one bathroom in the house that's upstairs. So stair lifts could be something to look at. And then around the house, I think a lot of what was discussed can kind of play in the rest of the house. You want to look out for any tripping hazards, any clutter. It's such an easy thing, but if there's too much furniture, too many throw rugs, too much junk in the house that can trip someone, that's often like number one to just take a look at, see if there's anything that you can clean out. And then I would also say the entrances. So front door, garage door, backyard, you're in your house, you want access to the entire home if it's possible. So thresholds, stairs in general can be a challenge for folks. So we look for, areas to put either grab bars or handrails just to give you that extra support. Or if the needs require, say, someone is, dependent on a walker, a wheelchair, a mobility device, something of that nature, potentially a ramp to get inside so you don't have to, use those stairs or be prohibited from entry because of stairs. So a lot of stuff to consider, but again, we try to take a conversational approach, not throw too much at you, and just share what we've seen to work with other homes that are similar to your home, along with, certain conditions or challenges that you might be facing where we've had experience working with folks with similar challenges. So
thank you. That's comprehensive. That's sort of a tour of the house. As you were talking, you talked about trouble getting out of bed.
Yes.
Do you have anything that has an answer to my problem with trouble getting out of bed before 8 a.m.? Or is that just a problem I'm going to have to live with?
Nope, that's just a problem I think we all have to live with, unfortunately. Yeah, no lifts to sling you out, slingshot you out.
Got it. Steve, I have a question related to how you and a company like BrightStar interacts. Where is the overlap? So if you think about a typical journey as we age in home longer, we want to stay at home longer, we want to keep people home longer. BrightStar provides the caregiving, and you provide the equipment, and there is a journey. You get older, things get more difficult at home, and at some point you're faced with that, should I or shouldn't I move into a living facility? Another, And at that point is where you're trying to just get a few more years in your own home, quality of life. How does that interaction work? What is it that's a real benefit, if there is any, to the two companies like Brightstar Care providing care and your company providing medical equipment in the home work together?
Sure. I think the relationship only benefits the patient, right? So whether the journey starts with Brightstar Care, where someone is in need of some extra assistance in the home, and again, I can't say enough about Brightstar Care. A lot of home care companies provide care. Brightstar is a different level of medical care. So they are overseen by RNs. They go through an immense amount of training. So it is a little bit of a different ball field. So if someone is requiring, that dedicated medical attention that Brightstar is providing, there's a decent chance that they would benefit from, some of what we've discussed in the home to make the patient's life better, where they are able to remain a bit more independent for sure, safer, avoiding any falls or things of that nature, and dignified. So there's equipment that's just going to make their lives easier. And if you have home care, the folks providing the care, you're setting them up for success by getting that equipment too. So, for instance, having a hospital bed, it's just going to make it that much easier for transfers of someone who does have trouble getting out of bed, where, the caregiver is able to utilize that equipment in an appropriate manner to make those transfers that much easier and less, pulling on someone. You're able to get that person in the right position. So there's lots of stuff like that. And we love the relationship where if Brightstar has a customer and they see, or the family is open to a home safety assessment, we can go out and take a look, again, make patient's life easier, allow the caregivers to provide a higher level of care using the equipment. Or if, a customer or client reaches out to us and is in need of, say, for instance, a stair lift or, a hospital bed with alternating pressure to prevent pressure sores, some of those like higher risk sort of scenarios, they could probably be a good candidate for home care as well. So I think especially in Southern California, everyone has, a home that they may have spent a lot of time in. And, between our companies, between your patients and family, if we can all work together to, keep folks in the home that they're comfortable with for an extended period of time, that's our goal. I think that's Brightstar's goal as well.
Yeah.
And
I love how you brought that together and overlaps. And from listening to you, it sounds like Brightstar goes in, provides the care, and extends that period in the stay longer. But then as things get a little bit more intense and need, then you get called in, and now there's a little bit longer that they get to stay at home because now they've got the equipment and they're working together. And it also works in reverse, right?
Absolutely.
So you've got somebody that's using your equipment, stays there longer, but now they need care, and you call us in, and now that the client has a longer. So together, it's like a telescope. It's one, and then you add on and extend. I love how that works together to keep people staying at home longer.
Absolutely. And, whether it starts with you guys or it starts with us, needs evolve and change. And at some point, oftentimes there is an intersect where you're going to benefit from, if you started with them, benefit from us, or vice versa. So absolutely a synergy there. And ultimately, it's all in an effort for the patient, the client, to receive the best care and allow them to stay independent, dignified, and at home longer.
Okay. Steve, you've led me to a very interesting question here. Brightstar is not afraid to give its potential clients a checklist of how to select a home care agency, things you should look for, things that set a home care agency apart. When it comes to choosing, and as a service to our customers, we want them and this is an educational podcast, so I want them to understand more than just Brightstar and On the Mend, your company. If you had to give people a bit of a checklist on what sets a good medical equipment company apart and aside from the competition, what should they look for? What are the things that they should say, tick, 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 that's the company I want to go with for medical equipment?
Sure. Especially in our industry, I'm sure yours as well, the biggest thing is compassion, right? Like, we are small business, you guys are as well. We care. So I think that is what sets, that should be, a deciding factor there where you aren't just, a customer or a number. We're On the Mend. We joke around, our friends of On the Mend, whether it's partners, customers, we do try to, treat everyone the way we would want our parents to be treated. So, who's going to pick up the phone, when your scooter dies or your stair lift stops working? That's the biggest thing. People rely on the equipment that we provide. We take that very seriously. So, you don't want to be kicked down the road for 3 weeks before a service tech can come out to see you if you have an immediate need. So we try to do a good job of keeping, the most common needs in stock all the time. So hospital beds, wheelchairs, walkers, mattresses, lift chairs, like to have it ready to go is so important. And, just leading with that compassionate side of being sensitive to the fact that, you don't want to overload folks with too much equipment. But selecting the right stuff can make a difference for the overall outcome there.
So range of equipment that they can see themselves in the store is an important aspect as well. You talked about how much and different things you stock. How big is your store? Is it accessible to the public? How does it?
Yeah. So I do think that's important. Just the nature of the business. A lot of times we get the call and you need it now. So we have a storefront in Huntington Beach. We're on the corner of Adams and Magnolia. We have the team in Connecticut. So they're in Southbury, Connecticut, and Mount Kisco, New York. So we do have physical locations. We also have a warehouse in Huntington Beach. So again, for overflow of equipment to make sure we have that stuff on hand. But yeah, you could come down and visit our store, try things out. We're big on that, especially with the sort of thing. You want to see it, touch it, sit in it, drive it around. Like, to see it and feel it is so much different than just looking at it online or that sort of thing. So, and you could talk to us and bring in pictures or have us come out to your home, or if you want more info. So, having a physical presence, guys that you can rely on, talk to, ask questions, and, we want to help guide based on what we've seen to be helpful for other folks.
So what happens if somebody that wants to use the equipment can't make it into the store because, there's a physical limitation?
Sure. We run into it all the time and try to be as accommodating as possible. So, if you can't make it into our store, and maybe you saw a video online of a power wheelchair that we were demoing, let us know, call us, text us. We're always delivering equipment, installing equipment. We are always driving around Southern California, and we'll make a house call. We'll bring the stuff out to you to try out in your own home, your own environment, if that's required. So by all means, use us as a resource. Call us, text us. We're here.
Steve, if you had to give a listener or a potential client a checklist of all the different types of equipment, or maybe the most common types of equipment, what would the checklist look like very quickly? 1, 2, 3, 4. We need to.
Sure. Hospital bed, a reclining lift chair, the ones that, tilt forward to help someone stand up. Mobility, whether that's a cane, walker, wheelchair, transport chair, mobility equipment, or powered mobility equipment, a wheelchair or a power wheelchair or a power scooter, bathroom safety stuff, elevated toilet seat, commode, grab bars, and then getting into home safety, stair lift, ramps. I said grab bars.
You did.
Vertical platform lifts. There's a lot of stuff for the home as well.
That's perfect. That's 11 items. And the reason I like that is because people often don't understand what sort of things to look for. And it's just that was very useful. Thank you.
And I'll just kind of briefly too, there's so much specialty equipment too. So between patient lifts and gait trainers and things that are really specialty, by all means, reach out to us. And, if it is a really specialized need, there's a lot of stuff and we'd be happy to, again, steer you in the right direction there.
Thank you, Steve. What is the most exciting product that you've seen launched this year? I'm a tech kind of guy.
Okay.
And I love the fact that you work with actual hardware and physical things.
Sure.
And I'm always looking for the future. What is some of the stuff that you've seen that's really you've gone, wow, there's a wow factor associated with it?
So I'll do two really quick. Okay. So Access BDD makes the FlowX curved stair lift. They're a division of TK Elevator, huge elevator company. They have revolutionized the curved stair lift. If you've seen them in the past, a lot of people think old, clunky, big, rails, takes up the whole stairs. These things, you have to check them out. They look like the Tesla of stair lifts. They are so sleek, so modern looking, and they have some really cool features like auto swivel, so you don't have to, release the latch at the top. We program all that stuff. So Access BDD, curved FlowX stair lift, bar none, best stair lift in the game. And then what we're seeing a lot of it with the advancement of like lithium batteries, power wheelchairs and power mobility scooters. There's a lot of stuff with the advancement of batteries and carbon fiber where they're able to get some really, really cool portable options finally. So lightweight, good range, folds right up, one piece, easy peasy to get in and out of the car. That's been a big, challenge in the past, but the technology is there where the units are light enough and the batteries are small and compact and powerful enough to be useful and, very lightweight. I think the lightest power wheelchair, we've been getting a lot of them. They're 29 pounds with the battery.
Wow.
It folds up like a wheelchair. It's the Journey Air Elite. Pride has the carbon. So yeah, there's some cool stuff where they've just lightened these things up a lot with carbon fiber and the lithium versus the lead batteries. Lighter weight, same range, easy enough to travel with conveniently.
Wow, 29 pounds. That's lighter than my dog. That's amazing.
It's lighter than a regular old wheelchair.
Wow. Okay. Steve, we're coming to the trail end of this interview, and I want to ask you one final question because it's about optimism and about looking into the future with optimism. What are you keeping an eye on in the future for the medical equipment and home-based medical equipment type of products?
Yeah, so we're lucky to be a part of the team on the East Coast, right? So they've been in business coming up on 8 or 9 years. They actually have a dedicated R&D, research and development person on staff to always be looking at advancements for equipment. So we're seeing some really cool stuff with alternating pressure mattresses, to prevent pressure sores. So that technology is really interesting, just always changing. Again, the mobility and the equipment stuff, it continues to get smaller and lighter. So they come out with one and, a year later they shrink it like 10 pounds and it's like how much smaller and how much, so pretty cool to see the trajectory of that. We're seeing but we're seeing equipment really geared towards, specific conditions. So things like Parkinson's specific walkers that, have those most common sort of conditions in mind in the design of them. So lots of cool stuff. It's always changing, it's always evolving, and we're lucky to be a part of it, to have a dedicated R&D person, but to educate people on what is available, what is out there, to go back to keeping folks in their
informed,
home, safe, independent.
So I'm going to give you a chance to close out with, these are educational conversations. So I don't normally invite people to put out any form of self-promotion, but because you've painted this picture of what's in the future, I love your story about having an actual R&D department, and I'd love to have that guy's job. That sounds like a fun thing to do.
But she's very smart.
Okay.
Yeah.
She's got the job that I want. So if the future is looking like it's changing all the time, how do people stay in touch with you? And you're welcome here to give out a website or a YouTube channel or something, so that people, and from that, I'll put that in the show notes as well.
Okay.
Where would people follow you?
Sure. So, we have the physical store, 8921 Adams Avenue in Huntington Beach. We're on the corner of Adams and Magnolia. So you can stop in and see us, talk to me. I'm usually in the store. You could call us or text us, 714-602-1515. Our website, onthemendmedical.com. And we're pretty active on social media. So we're always putting out on, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, product demos, those light power chairs that come out. We do a quick, overview of it, and we get a lot of calls and people are interested, but, come in, test drive a power chair, or, even if you want to just run something by us. Hey, mom is running into this at home. Is there anything you've seen before? We'd love to do it. So, get a hold of us however you want. We try to be as accessible as possible.
Thank you. I'll put all of that in the show notes. And I'm going to close out with listening to Steve here. I'm going to suggest that the right way to do it is, even if you haven't heard of a piece of equipment mentioned, or if the checklist that Steve provided earlier doesn't have any relevance to you, I heard a reference to how they're developing and they're able to match equipment to specific conditions, like Parkinson's and so on. So I think what the warning should be, or the advice should be, is if you have somebody that you're taking care of with a particular condition, call you, describe what's happening, and then see what you might be able to provide, as opposed to just calling you when there is a need and they've already felt what equipment they made. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. And I'll just kind of expand a little bit too. Like if you're, noticing some things in your parents where something is kind of gnawing at you, like, hey, it might be time for it. If the thought of assisted living or home care or, a fall or, fall prevention, any of that is a concern, call us, call Brightstar. We'd love to talk. We both have great resources. And I think that's partly why we work so well together. We have a great resource group. So if I don't know something or about home care, or Bijou doesn't know something about equipment, like, we're not afraid to cross-check each other or reach out and, get an answer. And we're happy to put you in touch with, the best people that we know. So, yeah.
Thank you, Steve. And I think that's how I'm going to close it out. You've left me in that it does take a community of or a network of different resources. It doesn't just take a home care company. It takes a home care company that knows somebody and has a relationship with a medical equipment company that then has a connection with somebody who knows how to arrange financing, that knows somebody. So I think that it takes multiple people to keep us in our homes longer, which is really the aim of what we're trying to do. I can't thank you enough.
This is awesome.
I appreciate you being here, and I'm looking forward to talking to you again in the future, particularly when some of the space age medical equipment type of devices come good.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for having us.
Good to have you.
Thank you.
Good.